In this world, the fear of death was a constant companion of man. That is changing now. The awakening of people brings with it that death is subjected to a whole new consideration. This leads to the fact that all churches or religions which lived well from this fear get into serious difficulties. They lose their jurisdiction, their competence in this important question, and become worthless for people. The change in consciousness that is currently underway raises completely new questions for individuals. Who am I and where am I going? Is no longer a question for philosophers, but this question is now reaching the everyday consciousness of more and more people. This is accompanied by a spiritualization of the human being. Increasingly, people understand themselves as spiritual beings who have a human experience. For this, it needed this density of the bodies. But now the light opens the consciousness of the people for a larger perception. The reduction of life to birth and death, and in between what you called your life until now takes place, is unacceptable for more and more people. Given that we are all soul incarnated in a physical body, it becomes easier to understand life. Many believe that we are just this material body, and that when we die, everything ends. However, many also understand that we are an immortal soul, which reincarnates successively until we complete a cycle of learning in this earthly school. Let's reflect on this second chance. What is a soul? We have already brought here issues relating to manada, to which each belongs. But let's say that in fact, it's a single consciousness divided into parts. I think to myself that if I am not afraid of death and am well rooted in myself and connected to the source of all being, then the many fear mechanisms of this matrix no longer operate. When I know that God cares for me, I no longer worry so much about worldly things. Losses are much easier to bear, and gains don't mess with your head either. Being connected is what matters. Then the power and fear mechanisms lose their effect. Up to now, the human being experienced his life in a very narrow radius. The human consciousness was calibrated on this earth. Specific experiences were to be made, and to it also the experience of the fear, the lack and the unkindness belonged. When this earth was farthest from the center of this universe, the darkness was greatest and hardly any light penetrated to you. In this remoteness from the divine, caught in this illusion, you could have these extreme experiences. These were the optimal conditions for light-filled angels who wanted to experience themselves in the darkness. Since the Earth is approaching the solar center of this universe, this quarantine is lifted. Light particles from the central sun penetrate to your hearts and you can awaken. So the divine plan that creates and drives everything provides that this soul can free itself from matter from time to time in order to expand its consciousness, enough to remember who it is. You will also remember all your past lives and at the same time know a certain future time in order to elaborate another incarnation plan. This samsara wheel of successive incarnations exists here on Earth since mankind emerged here. It's the plans within the Creator's project. Everything is going according to plan. This is with the Earth and all the other planets, stars, galaxies, and infinite universes. Every school has a curriculum. In finding learning, it is necessary that learners move to the next level. The Earth as a school offered a limited level of consciousness, and the lessons were based on the duality of all that can be created here. To live one polarity, now another, in successive incarnations, generates a situation that has been classified as Earth, a world of trials and atonement. Justice, will rule as soon as the individual people lose their fears. Please consider how many people live in existential distress and how few people are responsible for it. It is just a handful of dark power elites who are responsible for all the injustice, and the whole of humanity is unable to stand up against it. Do you recognize this irrationality? Yes, the people who are still better off are afraid of losing their modest prosperity and remain silent, and those who have nothing left to lose often rise up. But these revolts are either nipped in the bud or end in a bloodbath. The power lies with the few and not with the many. And that is the error. The real power lies with each individual, and that's the answer to your question about how long it will take before we see more development. Mankind will be blinded by the dark magicians of this matrix until a certain number of people wake up and consequently in a maelstrom move the whole mankind to wake up. Until it is so far, many people will leave this earth. For all those who neither want to nor are able to integrate the ever higher vibrations from being, this earth will soon become unbearable. When you speak of the moment that changes everything, then always include that this does not concern all of the present humanity. It justifies the state of consciousness of every human being. Everyone already has, within their unconscious, the knowledge of each action and its consequences. Therefore, no one can claim that they did not know the outcome of each action taken. Even though a lot of human beings still always defend their personal interests to the detriment of the collective. There is not even a single soul that does not have the discernment of what is lawful and what is not. Insisting, even knowing that you should not proceed with such attitudes, will generate a consequence that requires future repair and harmonization. As time is now running out, future adjustments debts can no longer be made here on Earth. This is in fact the most important care we should have in this final stage of learning. So far we live the experience within what is understood as separation. As if we are indeed separated from the source and all that is. But that was only an illusion. We have always been an extension of our higher self, of our monada. Finally, the time for unification has come. That is, our integration of this soul fractal with its higher versions. Remembering that soul is simply a consciousness. Therefore, we are a fractal of this larger consciousness, and there at the source, where we were created, our higher self is also one with all, that is, with the other monadas and with everything that is in the cosmos. The transition into the new dimension of being is for an awakened human being an extremely harmonious and peaceful process. The transition into a dimension of unconsciousness is for an unconscious person, always accompanied by pain experiences, pain which ends in the moment in which a beingness is ready for the healing. In this sense, each being inflicts upon itself what it wants to experience. Take complete responsibility for your life. Nobody, except yourself, is responsible for what happens to you on this earth or in the infinity of being. Therefore, it is of utmost importance that you take complete responsibility for your life from now on. This requires courage, and that means being brave. Everything that happens for good or bad in your life is your own responsibility. Are you ready for that much responsibility? Do you want to be completely responsible for your life? It is easy to blame the dark magicians of this matrix for your problems. How about blaming yourself? Because it is only from this attitude that the power to change is born in you, and you are given every power to move something externally or internally. then your powerlessness dissolves and it can no longer be suggested to you that external phenomena are responsible for your inner dissatisfaction. No, it is up to you, all one, what happens in your life and in your dying. And if that's the case, everything here on earth is also all that there is. This explains the chaos we are currently living in on the planet. It is time to integrate all into unity. However, there's the question of frequency. As each consciousness possesses an individual frequency, two situations will determine the fate of the students of this school. The consciences that have already learned and put into practice each action within the day-to-day, always based on cooperation and unity, will follow through the high frequency to the ascension portal, leaving behind the world of atonement and testimonies. Since the consciences that still conspire in division and negative actions belong to the group that prefers competition and that goes against unity. This group of consciences will form the collective that does not have enough frequency to pass through the ascension portal. These are not ready for the new earth, which has already been plastered and will soon replace the one we know so far. The group of consciousnesses that possess the frequency of ascension are now undergoing major internal changes. Feel something great coming, but they also feel very uncomfortable. As it is a shift in consciousness, in fact what you feel is a sensation of death, and in a way it is. The old understanding of things is dying to give birth to the new one. You need to understand this in order not to suffer unnecessarily. This is also the moment called loneliness. You never felt so alone, even when you're surrounded by so many people and things. There is a sense of loss, a feeling of being abandoned, and also a certain amount of insecurity. And I would say more, fear and insecurity too, because we are leaving behind a known world to enter a new, unknown world. And even knowing that it will be a better world, the fear of the unknown is always a threat to our emotional stability.